Hello and welcome to The Hill is Always Greener, a show where four friends and a guest have chill discussions about Sonic the Hedgehog and other characters in the franchise to distract themselves from the inevitable passage of time and their own rapidly waning ability to relate to the youth. I'm CyberLink.
I'm the beautiful and cheery girl, GameBuddy.
I'm Faulerro.
I'm the floating rock as a substitute for a flicky, RockTheJake.
And I'm Mika.
Yay!
Again.
We got her back, folks.
There's
Somehow,
a girl here.
some way, I'm here again.
Well, it's just today's topic is something that I was like, well, we got to bring you back for this one because this is one you're quite passionate about.
I'm the shameless,
You'd
unapologetic.
argue it's your sweet passion.
Yeah. I'm like the blind Amy cheerleading section that just doesn't care. It doesn't matter what we say. I'm just be like, I still love her and think she's the best. So
We all have our problematic faves, so
yeah, no, I don't think she's problematic at all. Actually, I think Amy did
the
nothing
main
that's
wrong.
why you're
problematic trait
here.
is that she's a woman.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just say you hate women. Come on, be honest.
There it is.
Everyone, get used to hearing that phrase today.
Yes.
Just say you hate women.
Well, if we support women's rights, we also should support women's wrongs.
So true. So true, though.
Well, we're going to be talking about it a lot because today's episode, similar to our previous discussion about who is Sonic, which at the time of recording has not come out yet, but I'm sure all of you were very receptive and no mean words were said whatsoever about our opinions. And everybody completely agreed with our conclusions.
Didn't make fun of me for almost crying on the podcast.
No, but we are talking about who is Amy Rose, because that is maybe more than any other character, that is a very complicated question to answer and has a lot of different answers depending on who you ask.
Yeah, Amy Rose is kind of a character who has changed a lot as well. Like, so we're talking about the difference and disparity between different Sonics. But Amy Rose, like, not just depending on the franchise, even within, like, the quote-unquote canon games, you got, like, different varieties of Amy, depending on what you get, especially depending on which era we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. All the way from Sonic Adventure to Sonic Frontier, her character has spanned quite a number of shades and changes.
Ups and downs, if you want to.
And all around.
Yeah.
Up and down and all around. Also, I just realized I didn't mention Sonic CD, but to be fair, she gets kidnapped and
I mean, that's
like the biggest disparity. You know?
I mean, that's kind of the thing, is that Amy didn't do much until Sonic Adventure. Like, you know, they introduced her in Sonic CD to be the damsel in distress, but after that, she kind of just was hanging out in the background every so often, but
She bought
I
a
don't
car.
know.
Unless you were reading Sonic the Comic, who decided, yes, we will use this girl character for things.
Yeah.
she got an old school gat.
Yeah, we're gonna give her an updo and a crossbow and a girlfriend.
Either that or the very untranslated, Koro comics, but...
I read all that was available of those before this, so I've got...
Yeah.
And that's 11 chapters altogether. There's a lot more, but that's all that's there in English. So it is interesting seeing I wouldn't say the origins of Amy, but the first actual appearance of Amy is in a manga that barely anybody's read.
I know one of the panels you shared is her literally going, Kia, Sonic! I'm like, okay, that's all right, yeah, we're starting there, huh?
On brand.
Surely Amy.
This was fan translated, all right.
Well, is it really fan translated if there's not like unneeded swearing in there?
Oh, that was in the first chapter.
Okay, I'm glad that they are, being consistent in that regard.
So who is Amy Rose? Who has the answer right now? I want it.
She is a mascot character for Sega Incorporated.
That was like so much nicer. I was gonna say, I was just be like, she's a girl.
Yeah.
That's one thing that stays completely consistent about her.
If you want to be, yes, very in this, keeping the same like corporate reductionism, she is Girl Sonic.
She's pink.
They needed a Sonic for the girls, so they made one of those.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is funny. We talked about, technically made her game debut in Sonic CD, but then, unless you had access to, other materials, she did just kind of hang around in spin-off games until Sonic Adventure brought her back into the limelight and gave her a personality. Like, that's so funny that now with the like classic resurgence where there are like parallel things, they've kind of had to retroactively establish who classic Amy was, and it's, you know, it's mostly the same. She's not out there talking and sharing her feelings, but you can kind of see how she goes from being classic Amy to modern in, games like Superstars and whatnot. Even her, her retroactive inclusion into, like, the Sonic Origins collection.
God, isn't it wild? You finally play as a woman in those games.
Finally, women can be video games.
Good for them. The thing about classic Amy is, like, one of her traits that seems to be there is that she's fixated on Sonic. Like, if you're not even reading the instruction manuals, just looking at the game, Sonic CD, her whole thing is that she runs around on that bit of Palm Tree Panic that you might have missed if you aren't in the present, and she grabs Sonic and gloms onto him, and she's like, oh, the little hearts float up, and you're like, well, guess she really likes Sonic. Sonic, according to the art from the game, is thoroughly uninterested. Because girls are icky.
I was gonna say, it's weird, but even since the beginning, I can remember Amy always said, you can tell what she's about by looking at her, just because they have that, like, Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse thing going on.
That's what they were aiming for, apparently.
It's just like,
aiming.
Oh, she looks like Sonic, but pink, so that's girlfriend. Like, that was just the character design trope, especially back in the day. It's like, oh, Sonic, but pink. Well, that's his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And she wears clothes to hide her shame.
Just as women do.
Yeah.
It's the only reason women wear clothes, don't you know?
I mean, Sonic's got his wang out all the time. You just can't see it because he's moving too fast.
Because it's so small.
Yeah.
It went back inside.
That's why he's so grumpy all the time in the old games. It says a lot.
Yeah, that checks out.
Tiny wiener. Yeah, makes sense.
How did we get here? Aside from that kind of spotlight moment in CD, and Amy's finally getting that kind of respect she should have been owed originally in Origins and everything. But it's like you go back and Amy just did not do much for a good long time, which is part of the reason why, like, that was definitely the reason why Archie did not do much with her in the comics until...
They already had a girl character there. They already had Sally Acorn.
Yeah.
They had all they needed with Sally, apparently, until they decided all the other girls needed to show up. And Amy slid further and further into the background. Like, she shows up in, like, 25, I think it was. Was that the issue that she first...
Yeah, that was the CD adaptation.
And they're sort of like forced almost by like mandate to bring her in as like, Ryan, we'll put her in here, but we won't like it, and then she goes away immediately after.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. We pointed it out at the time, but Robotnik kidnaps Amy, but also kidnaps Tails in that issue. So literally, Amy could not be there, and the issue would not change at all,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. We've also gone over. Speaking of, we're kind of moving into modern Amy because there's just not a lot to talk about classic. Archie also, we've discussed how they brought Amy back and gave her Sonic Adventure upgrade look with magic rings and magical aging. Not very well. We've discussed that, Archie, at length. But modern, I did go back in preparation for this and watch some just Sonic Adventure cutscenes, and they do just establish Amy, like the first thing she says, she's walking down the street with her groceries and talks about how bored she is and how much more fun it was when she was going on adventures and getting rescued by Sonic. And then you have the little flashback where I suppose now it's supposed to be Sonic CD, but it could be talking about some adventures we haven't seen yet. I'm not sure. It's the fact that it's Metal Sonic is there, and it's the the little model you would see in Eggman's little area. But
well, they kind of pulled back from referencing the old games a little bit because there was like beta dialogue or something of them mentioning like, oh, the events of Angel Island and Little Planet, but didn't make it into the final game. So I'm sure they were alluding to it there. But yeah, doesn't really matter.
And I do want to say, before we get too deep into, like, you know, talking about classic Amy, like, you know, we talked about those Japanese comics, and, like, we are speaking about everything that we could possibly find and know about Amy. Like, those comics haven't been translated, like, by fans or not. So, like, if you're waiting to type a comic about how those are very important in establishing Amy early as a character, like, well, they were not accessible to us.
No, we certainly didn't have them. There are some translations of, like I said, 11 chapters. Here's a sample of the translation quality we've got here. That is recurring character Anton Veruca, hurling a swear word at Sonic the Hedgehog.
A swear word and a chain.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Interesting. Well, there you have it, folks.
But Amy Rose, or sorry, just Amy, or Emmy, is because that's how it was often romanized in Japan. Because I guess they don't have the name Amy over there. Like, Emmy is like the closest thing. But Amy, just Amy, was the girlfriend of Nicky the Hedgehog, the the nerdy, lovely little hedgehog with glasses who's just like, oh, I'm just so weak, I wish I was stronger. And every time he does that, he transforms by magic into Sonic the Hedgehog, the mystical hero who is also the hero of his dad, who is a fighter pilot, or pilot anyway, who wears a bomber jacket with Sonic on the back. So they were really insistent on having that particular Sonic origin that we talked about in this story. But yeah, basically, she's in love with Sonic, but she's Nicky's girlfriend. So in a way, she in this early bit of media that none of us have heard of.
Oh, so it's a Lois Lane thing.
Yeah, it pretty much is. But bad. No, it's fine. These are cute little comics, to be honest. But in a way, Amy got to date Sonic the Hedgehog in this early piece of media that came out before Sonic CD, back when she was just had a design. But if you read the first chapter, she's got a weird design. She looks a bit like Tiara Bubowski and has that big ponytail that sprouts up like a plant. For the most part, funny. She's a cute little Amy.
So funny how messing up her hair like that is a reoccurring thing throughout her existence.
Yeah.
Even though I think it's cool looking.
Okay, so I think we've talked about it before, but the whole Amy's upswept hair being a thing that just basically a misunderstanding. Because there was that one piece of Sonic and CD art where the first art that most of us saw of Amy Rose, where Sonic is like pulling her along and she's like swooning, and her spikes are going upwards because I guess of motion. That's why. Yeah, there it is. And
it's like the angle of her head too. She's kind of got it pointed in a weird direction.
So we all thought, oh, she just looks like that. That's a nice look. And so did the comic. Well, so did specifically Sonic the comic. Pretty sure that Archie had the right idea, probably because Patrick Spaziante played the actual games as a huge nerd for Sonic.
Yeah.
But that became the European look for Amy, as we were discovering the French comics that were also made. Just poking up hair, I guess. I like it.
It's very punk rock. She looks cool.
I like it because it differentiates her silhouette from Sonic more. Yeah. And then it's also a huge contrast with her modern look. It's like, oh, she put some relaxer on there now. That's what she does.
So true. She started combing it out.
But I think a lot of people, or at least what established it was Sonic Adventure. The Amy that most people know today started in Sonic Adventure, and I still think Sonic Adventure is a really solid story for Amy because it really does establish like her greatest strengths going forward, like how caring she is, like her interactions with Gamma, and how she is like very firm and not turning Birdie over, but then is like empathetic to Gamma and asks him like, well, why are you doing this? Doesn't this make you feel bad to be, you put me in this cage with this bird? And it's what leads to Gamma's whole story. It's like, oh, this person was nice to me. Why would I be mean to them just because Dr. Eggman programmed me to? And she starts by saying she's bored. She wished she could hang out with Sonic more. She finds Sonic, and this is also where we have the like Sonic is not glad to see her. He's immediately backing away. But then ends after she reunites Birdie with their family. She destroys the Zero robot that's been harassing her the whole game, and ends by saying that she definitely still wants Sonic to notice her, but that she is going to be independent, do cool adventures on her own, and she's going to make him notice her first. And she even says like, and by then it'll be too late. Which I'm not sure how to take that too late, like, oh, I'll be too cool for Sonic, or I'm not sure, but it's a nice note to end
I'll be
on.
dead and gone, Sonic. Are you happy?
Yeah.
I thought it was more like it'll be all over for him, like he'll be proposing to me on the spot.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
And I think that is kind of rooted in what I think is, maybe the best of Amy's traits is that, when written well, she is kind of an empath. People talk about how corny the whole, frontiers wanting to spread that love around the world or whatever might have been. But no, Amy has always been a character who like genuinely cares about other people and wants to, do what's best for them and for, people at large. Like, obviously Gamma was a big one. I immediately think of Sonic Adventure 2 when she is the one who's basically, telling Shadow that, yeah, people have their faults, but deep down they do have the capacity for good, and they do not deserve that. And I think that too.
Yeah.
Until Chris Thorndike came along and was like, no, I'm having this
Well,
scene.
that's a whole other conversation.
And then Shadow beat the shit out of that child.
Yeah. I used to be a person who thought like, oh man, Adventure 2, they just threw out all that Amy stuff. But Adventure 2, she is still more, it's more downplayed compared to how cartoonish it would get in like Heroes going forward. And I still laugh now at like the scene where she, Amy does break into Prison Island and, it's got the key card and everything. And we've talked about, it's also a really good scene for Sonic because he's tapping his foot and pacing back and forth. And Amy's like trying to like, hey Sonic, how you doing? Like, oh, I'll let you out if you marry me. And he's like, no, thank you.
Step one in her master plan. Free him from prison.
And that's a great moment with Shadow where she, she's literally like frustrated that she can't do more. Like everyone is heading towards the core of the arc, and she's like, no, come on, this is what you told yourself. You have to do more things on your own, Amy. And she does what she feels like she needs to in that moment, which is to appeal to Shadow. And like that is in that game, it literally unlocks his memory, and it's like, oh wait, that's what Maria told me to do. She said, please give them a chance. And so Amy like gets to be the emotional crux in that scene. Now I'm like, oh yeah, that fits perfectly with with her established character even from Sonic Adventure.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mika.
Oh, I was just going to say something useless. I was just be like, I love Amy.
That's important to the discussion.
I'm just smiling from ear to ear because all of this makes me think like, yes, this is why I love her. She's so headstrong. She sticks to her values. She's delusional about Sonic, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. I love that she's just like, I don't care. I love my man.
Let women be delusional about men, and the people that they love.
But it's like,
and then have to fight their delusions in Sonic Battle.
I guess.
Oh God.
Maybe it's because it would be so easy for her to fall into the like uselessly pining damsel in distress who doesn't do anything. It's so nice that she's just always sticks to her values, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's I think that scene makes up for the fact that, we've talked about it before. It's the fact that Dr. Eggman comes up on her with a fucking Glock. Like, it's less that he snuck up on her and like, "Oh, I'll take you, my pretty. You're helpless without Sonic." It's like, no, I have a fucking gun. Get in the corner right now. That scene just does not play like, just the damsel in distress. That gets thrown around a lot. It does happen sometimes. It happens a lot
her
in
first
Sonic
appearance
X
in Sonic CD as well. Like, that's how they establish this. She's a girl and she got kidnapped. So she's immediately like trying to fight against that. But
we joked about it in Sonic F. She did have a habit of getting kidnapped a lot.
Unfortunately,
she's one of those.
Yeah,
they needed to write a lot of episodes. So
yeah. Well, that brings me to like Sonic Heroes, where everything starts to get flattened out and carries over into. I've made no bones about it. I love Sonic X. I think it's a great show. It does have some stinkers, and the stinkers are usually just the ones that can be boiled down to, the characters go do a thing and then Eggman shows up. And in a lot of those, Amy does get caught in, sometimes with other characters, so it's not just her. Like, Eggman gets caught in a trap or a robot grabs her. And it's just varying degrees of success. I guess that's where Heroes, again, I've reevaluated Heroes. Heroes is much funnier in Japanese, where you get all of the funny jokes between Amy, Cream, and Big, where Amy does say something that could be perceived as delusional or insane, and Cream looks at the camera and says, "Uh-oh." And those just did not make it into the English dub, unfortunately.
I didn't know about that. That's so funny.
I think that softens it more, going back to Heroes, where it literally is she is chasing after Sonic to force him to marry her. And even hey, you talk about fighting her delusions in battle. She beats Team Sonic on top of the skyscraper so he'll marry her.
I like that she's taking control, She's manifesting her own destiny in the most forceful way possible.
There's a phrase.
And if you don't like that, just like Mika would say, you just hate women, right?
I was going to say, for a girl who's completely delusional for just one guy and gets kidnapped a lot, she does have a lot of agency most of the time. So
Yeah.
It's not what you would expect, and that's another thing that I just like about her. So,
and also to be fair to Sonic Heroes, Amy, she is also helping her friends find their pets / life partners at the time as well. She's not completely only doing it to chase after Sonic.
Yeah.
Now, if you listen to her theme song from Sonic Heroes, that is all about her. And you know what? That kind of fits as well, because while she is helping her friends, it is largely about her. It's Team Rose. She's out there for Sonic. Everything else is a bonus.
Great song, though. Love that song.
I was going to say, I love that song. I've also sung that song.
Better than Team Sonic
no
song,
shame.
for sure.
I know. I think it is still my favorite vocal, outside of the main or the Crush 40 songs. That is my favorite team theme song in that game.
I'm in this machine, though.
I was about to say Teams Arcade.
Yeah,
this goes way too hard.
It's pretty good. It
goes ridiculously hard.
I think Team Chaotix used to be my favorite for a long time, but then recently I've gotten super into this machine, especially since I've been trying to learn how to play the chords on guitar, and I'm like, yo, this is hard though. I like it.
One of my favorite early moments of seeing Mika stream was when you were doing a karaoke stream and you started playing this machine. You were just like, oh, I'm gonna come.
I don't even remember that. It sounds like me, though. It absolutely sounds like me just going, oh, this song is so good. Oh. God. Oh, man. So true.
Lord.
Since we're still in that era of Amy, there was something I wanted to mention about Adventure 1 Amy, because I was just playing through her campaign yesterday, and because I had this episode that we're talking about in mind, I was trying to have that mindset while going through. And something that I really caught notice of for her character is that she never shows cowardice, at least in that game. But I don't think I've ever actually seen her show cowardice in any game. She strikes me as somebody who is strong and will fight when needed, but she also strikes me as somebody who knows when to get out of the way and run. Like she has a good head on her shoulders in that regard. Because obviously, like in Sonic Adventure 1, like, you know, if she's carrying Flicky or if the birdie is with her, for the most time, she's got it in hand and she's running away to keep the bird safe. But of course, at the end when we see animal abuse on screen and the robot punches her or punches the bird, you know, like that's it. Amy snaps and she gets the hammer out and she just starts fighting. And I mean, yeah, she gets caught and all that, but like if we want to be real about it, in real life, if a big old robot came up to you and like caught you and was carrying you away, what are you going to do except scream, "Help, help, I am being carried away"?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. She responds to the danger more than she reacts to it. Like, yeah, she's scared, but she's not like freezing up. She's not, like you said, she's not screeching for help. It's like you said, she has more of an agency to her character, and I think that does describe Amy a lot. And it's also I like in some of the classic material we've got now, you could see like something that Amy, like you said, grew into. Like I'm thinking of, there's been a couple of IDW classic Sonic comics where Amy is like, rightfully so, like pretty spooked anytime she sees a Metal Sonic, classic Amy anyway. And like, yeah, he was the big scary guy that kind of looked like Sonic that kidnapped her and put her in the laser prison.
Oh
but
no,
then
my trauma.
like, yeah. But then nowadays, like modern Amy is, you know, has no specific fear of Metal Sonic. Like she regards him like Sonic does as a threat, but like, no, I'm gonna kick your ass, robot.
Well, we even got that one really great animated short where she helps bring him back to Robotnik and like puts a little flower on him and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, the Amy Adventures. Yeah. When she determines he is not a threat.
Yeah, because like she panics and then she starts like beating the crap out of him with the hammer, like panic stricken. And there's like when she realizes, oh, he is incapable of movement. All right, well.
And then she goes, "Aw, he's sad."
Now I feel bad about beating him up.
I guess the thing is, I just don't like it when Amy is incredibly like loud and obnoxious about chasing Sonic. Like I'm thinking of early Sonic X. I think it's episode 5 where her, Chris, and Tails take the train up to look for an emerald and get caught by Eggman. The beginning where she's screaming at Sonic to like, "Oh, come, I made a picnic," and he's like, no thanks. And I don't know. I guess that's it. It only bothers me when that is the only focus she has, and she's being what I perceive as like being unreasonable about it.
And unfortunately, there was a long stretch where that was kind of the norm, just because, like, particularly, I think between say 06 and maybe Forces, when we started to get like postmodern Amy, as it were, like she kind of just became just that, just because for that long stretch Sonic was basically the only one who was playable, so she and everybody else got shoved to the side, and basically everybody got Flanderized just because they were such a less significant part of the plot, and ended up being, you know, their roles kind of reduced down to those most base traits. Like, you know, you look back at Generations and all of her lines are basically about, oh, Sonic and whatnot. It's unfortunate.
I mean, her whole thing at the time it became a recurring gag, a running gag of like, there would be a Sonic-esque character on the scene and she'd run up and be like, "Sonic! Oh wait, I didn't look at you for 5 seconds. I guess it's another character." Except for when she did that on Unleashed with the werehog, and it was just like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, mysterious stranger. I just, for some reason, I thought you were Sonic," and then she leaves.
Like, that one I think actually kind of worked, just because it was an inversion of the usual, and it actually made you feel bad in the moment because, oh.
Yeah. I was going to say, no, I think that's a good bit. I think it works perfectly.
Oh, Sonic is like disappointed because she's not interested in the big bar of furry Sonic.
Oh, I see how it is. Yeah, I looked at a couple of other things. That is basically her role in like the first Sonic Riders. Before we get to that, but just to go back to like, we do have to remember a lot of the extended cast, like you said, was getting smoothed out, and because like Sonic X is also where like they started to lean into like, oh, Knuckles is kind of a big angry dummy, and that would get into other games that came after that, and kind of the same, I always thought Tails maybe got it the least bad, but there are a lot of games where instead of being Sonic's go-to, he is just, he's the smart one. He's like, oh, I got a device. Like, oh, wow, hoverboards? Yeah, those are this, let me explain this technology. But Knuckles yells at me because he's dumb and doesn't understand it. But yeah, so it wasn't just Amy. It's just, I think Amy stands out to where sometimes it's the most egregious. Like we have covered Sonic Battle where we covered Sonic Battle.
I think that's part of the problem too, is that she's so loud that it makes her easy to hate, that even when other characters are necessarily being really bland, so to speak, like they're being very one-dimensional, she's really loud, so she's the easiest to be like, oh my god, she's so annoying.
and she's a woman. So.
And she's a woman.
You're not even wrong.
No, that's the thing. That's literally the thing sometimes. That's the reaction some fans have. Are just like, oh, but she's a girl, though. And that makes it worse.
That makes it so much worse. I hate when women like people. It makes me so, I hate when women have thoughts. It makes me so mad.
One of these days, we will have to cover Sonic Chronicles, by the way, because that has an interesting depiction of Amy, in that Amy lies to Sonic about having a boyfriend to make him jealous.
Dexter.
Cool. Good for her.
If I had unlimited time, I would have liked to go back to see like how she was written in that game. And just, I mean, like you said, we need to cover that game in general because it's been so long, and it's everybody knows it's not a good game, but it had a lot of writing in it. And I remember at the time people being like, well, this is pretty good,
compared to what we have right now. In other official media, it was like, yeah, this is pretty tolerable. It is also the only official Sonic product where you can have Sonic date Amy in the last 5 minutes. There is a Son Amy route. You just have to be... But the thing is, I've mentioned this before, but to get that confession scene at the end of the game where she's like, oh, I don't really have a boyfriend, I was just... to do that, you have to be nice to Amy in every single scene, to the point of it being ridiculous.
There's like 30 different specific choices you have to make in the dialogue. It's a little much.
That's for the hardcore Son Amy fans, I suppose.
Ugh.
Couldn't be Mika, right?
Just like, listen, the one-sided dynamic is what I love. If he ever reciprocated, I'd be so mad.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that's why I like the end of the first series of Sonic X so much, where in the Japanese version, Amy bursts into tears, is being very honest, like, it's not just that I like you, Sonic, it's that I thought you were never coming back, and I just couldn't stand thinking that. And then Sonic says something, and we, the audience, do not get to hear it, but Amy does, and then she gives him a big hug, and I always thought that was like the perfect scene, and I really can't stand it that other dubs added a line to it. I think in English, Amy says, like,
don't you ever leave me again, Sonic the Hedgehog!
Don't you worry, Amy, I never will.
It's much better when it's muted, because it gets to be one of those moments where like Sonic knew exactly what to say to Amy.
It's that lost in translation moment. He's like, whatever he said, it was the perfect thing to say.
He realizes that Amy is being incredibly honest with him right now, that this is not a trick to go on a date. This is not her trying to, get him to marry her. She is sharing her real feelings beyond her, her forever crush. And
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, in that moment, Amy's not being superficial. She doesn't just like the idea of him or something. She's like, I care about you as a person,
Yeah.
And that also goes back to something that we talked about with our Who is Sonic episode where, Sonic will, put on a bit of a front a little bit. He's jokey. He's, maybe run a bit, but he's like when the time really comes and he can see, his friends being, very honest about where they're at. He is good at like actually reading that and knowing what to say in that moment to, reaffirm them. We immediately think back to the Sonic and Tails scene of the Champions arc of Archie. Yeah, like I think I immediately think back to something that friend of the show, Evan Stanley, wrote once about the Sonic-Amy relationship where her read is that, I believe she said that Sega's stance is that Sonic does like Amy, but also isn't at a point where he's interested in a committed relationship, and she is okay with that. And I think that that's a good dynamic for them to have. Like, so there's still, the pining on Amy's end, but not necessarily something that is ever going to be taken any further. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why I see. I'm not even big on when Sonic is like very visibly uncomfortable around Amy because she's having a moment and like doesn't want her to touch him or is like backing away. Mostly because that feels so, I guess, blasé. I mean, it reminds me of like. I don't want to like cast shade on like anime series I haven't seen, but it feels like, I guess, an older harem style anime where it is like, this girl likes the protagonist and he likes her, but he doesn't want her to touch her, and
Ryoko.
I have to be looking at that to be able to say it. The one with Lum.
Urusei Yatsura,
yeah. But I guess I just don't think that maps onto Sonic well. I'm not a big
fan either of like, and we saw it in Sonic Battle and various games. It's just like when Amy shows up on the scene, he's like, Amy, Pachoom, runs out.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really best when their dynamic is that they're like close friends and he trusts her, and then when she gets all romantic, he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
None of that, please.
That's fine.
And there's some good they do get that tone right in Sonic X sometimes.
Yeah.
It's the goofy episodes of Sonic X. It happens in Riders. I mean, Sonic literally makes a big mugging face at the camera and Amy, I gotta go. And it's, I just don't like that dynamic for them either because, like you just said, I much prefer when they are like, they know no matter what happens, like what happens in the future in their relationship, that they can trust each other as friends now.
As friends, yeah. He doesn't hate her. He's just like, all right, enough of that. Calm down, Amy.
The gif you shared. The eyelash is making me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's literally the Sonic team will animate everything on a Sonic character but their face.
Oh my god.
I do really like Amy's fit in Riders, though. It looks nice.
Oh yeah,
it's
everybody
super
looks great in
cute.
Riders.
I love
Good
it.
costumes. That's another great thing about Amy. Great fashion sense.
Oh god, yeah, she's always super cute. And not to continue to cheerlead over here, but every single time I'm just like, look at her, she's adorable.
Mm-hmm.
They never miss with her ever.
So I think you already said it, but we are in kind of an area now. Like you said, I think it started with Forces, or at least around there. You had Sonic Boom that kind of presented this alternate Amy, this kind of different character, but
that really set the tone for what Amy was going to be, I think. And like, voice-wise too, Cindy Robinson had come in. Like at this point, Cindy Robinson was playing Amy. But since she started playing, was it like in Colors DS? I think. She was doing the Minnie Mouse voice. Let's be honest, like that's what they were going for, and I get it. but it wasn't great for that character. But Boom, like, I think is where it started, where she sort of like went with something a bit closer to her natural voice, and suddenly, and yeah, she sounds older, but suddenly it's like, oh, this is an Amy that's calmed down. It just immediately worked.
Yeah, I think we've definitely talked in the past. Forces is iffy because it is the story is kind of all over the place, and Amy is suddenly like the the de facto leader of this military faction of furries.
Well, in Forces itself, it was Knuckles. Amy took over right after that in the comics.
She was like leading a bit in the game, right? Like, as far as I remember.
She's kind of like your intelligence officer on the codec.
Paramedic telling you not to eat certain things.
But yeah, it was the IDW comics, which debuted just not too long after Forces, that would flesh out that role of her at the Resistance and have her go through the motions of she's still in the field. She, her debut is kicking butt those giant robots in a village, and Sonic comes by to help. And, I do just think it strikes the perfect tone of like Sonic strikes the pose and talks about, he calls himself the wind. And she's just like, oh, he is dreamy, but I've got to focus on the task at hand. Mm-hmm. And I should have looked up. I always forget what panel is the her with the big shiny eyes and the hi that people have been posting around. It is IDW. Mm-hmm. I can't remember. That's another good one. But I just love the story of Amy has a whole arc where she's like, I am the kind of the unelected de facto leader of the Resistance now, or the Restoration now. And it's really hard. As much as I love like making sure people are taken care of, this is not super what I'm good at. And after they have a big setback and have to like rebuild, it's after the Metal Virus arc, right? Yes? Or is it after the Zeddy's attack after that?
I believe it's right after the Zeddy attack.
Okay. She gets to basically tell all this to her friend Jewel, and that is Jewel graciously offers like, well, I'm pretty good at the 9 to 5 keeping records. She's like, oh, thank God, please do this for me.
Yeah.
And Luke and I were like, doing some discussion before we started, and that part of the comics where she kind of relinquishes control of the Resistance over to Jewel. I'm not trying to get too far ahead in our outline, but I think that also harkens back to what I mentioned earlier about how Amy generally has a really good head on her shoulders when it comes to making the right decision. Because, like she could be that, the quote unquote girl boss who like stays in charge no matter what the cost is. But she has a history, I think, of knowing when to fight and knowing when to back off, and in this case let somebody else take control. And I think honestly that's like a mature thing to be able to show, especially for a comic that's generally aimed towards the market demographic is kids and like preteens and young teenagers, and that's a mature like lesson to teach them, like, hey, it's good to strive towards things, but it's also good to know like what your personal limit is, and if somebody else is willing to help you, like, don't shy away from that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I like that she's confident but practical.
Yeah.
It's important to know when to give up.
It's not always giving up. It's just being sensible.
Mika's like, I'm gonna set you straight.
Not too long after that, she literally organizes like, okay, my best friends and I, we need a break. Let's take a little camping trip. And that is where there's a huge fire breaks out. And Amy, kind of springs into action as, again, not intentionally like saying, okay, everyone, listen to me. But no, she just knows what to do and how to delegate and is right there on the front lines herself. And that's a really good moment as well.
She's not like trying to act like hot shit. She's just, being capable and in control.
Yes, exactly.
Stepping up when the situation calls for it.
Exactly.
Like we said, she is responding, not reacting to the situation. She's really good at it. And I mean, I guess as we get into like how Amy is now and like these comics and frontiers, I really feel like it's not like I hate the fact that Amy loves Sonic and is always going to want to be around Sonic and ask him to marry her. It's more like I just hate when that's the only thing that a piece of media is focusing on. Like, you can have that and have it be done well, and I think it is now. And I guess that's where a lot of people would disagree with me.
They do. They sure do.
The problem is that there's a lot of people who see the Sonic obsession as Amy's only major character trait. And as a result, there's also some people who think that should be her only major character trait. And it's like, I feel like that is overly reductive to Amy as a character. And there needs to be more depth to her in that regard. Like, I feel like there is room to do more with Amy than just have her constantly chasing Sonic around, even in the moments where she is not playable or an active part of the story. Like, you know, one of the things I reread leading up to this episode was the Free Comic Book Day special from IDW, where it's classic Amy revealing that she actually draws comics in her spare time, and it's one of those little secret hobbies of hers. And you know, that's cute. Like, I wish more media would explore these sides of Amy beyond just, you know, what, like, the constant Sonic chasing and also her responding to whatever crisis. Like, there needs to be more, I feel like there needs to be more time, like, given to looking into these characters, like, as characters and the things that they, you know, appreciate beyond just the, like, most base character traits that you see and everything around them. Develop them more as, like, full personalities. And I think that they are finally starting to hit that balance, particularly in the comics, but hopefully soon in the games as well.
It is difficult when you're like a character has existed in like the 90s, I suppose, and that general early time period where they were still trying to work out how to write women in media, particularly kids media. And like the thing is, there's a really difficult balance to have between like a character's only character trait being the male character, the male protagonist, but also like making sure you're not, like, when you're like trying to correct the character, quote unquote, you're not like stripping them of like their feminine traits. Yeah. Because some people are like, well, if we get rid of what makes, you know, the feminine things, people won't complain because that makes them a better character if they're not a woman.
Yeah, it's like you can't have her just be, you know, the Sonic crazy fangirl, but at the same time, you can't also do what maybe Boom did a little bit too much sometimes and turn her into literally every female character in every piece of, you know, animation being released around this time period.
I mean, pretty much.
Yeah. As much as I do think Boom Amy is funny, she does tend to fall into that. Although there's some pretty funny episodes where they show that she does have hobbies and other things. I like the one where her and Eggman are both collecting the like the littlest pet shop figurines and end up getting into like a war over it. It's pretty good. I think that's why I really appreciate when the comics or media have Amy have some pretty good moments with other characters that are like very understated. I talked about how I really like the level she has in Superstars where she meets Trip, which is told wordlessly, where she finds Trip like upset and crying because she fell through Fang's trap and just immediately offers her a hand up and also a ride on her back for the rest of the level. It's very cute.
Women helping women.
Yes, exactly.
This goes back to what I was saying earlier about how I think Amy is at her best when, like, the defining, you know, characteristic for her is that she does, like, she is an empath. She does care about, like, other people genuinely, and she wants to help other people where she can. Like, my favorite episode of Boom for Amy is, you know, one written by Cindy Robinson, in fact, the one where she, you know, finds the broken down bee robot after a battle and like rehabilitates it, trains it. It's just a very cute episode. It really, you know, exemplifies, I think, the best parts of Amy's personality, regardless of it being the Boom version versus the main version.
It does have that wonderful moment though where she's teaching it tricks and she's like,
Play that! No!
Yeah, guttural scream.
Oh gosh, I need to see that now.
It's so
it's
good.
so funny. Yeah.
It's I think that's why I really like when Amy gets paired up with Cream as well, because like even if there are times where like there are jokes between them, like I said, Amy says something crazy about Sonic and Cream is like, oh, I don't know about that, I'm 6. But there are lots of moments, especially in the comics, where it's like, well, damn, Amy is such a good like big sister, which is
Yeah.
also like a cool, admirable trait to like little Cream the rabbit, and
She's
I
very
really like that as
compassionate.
well.
I immediately think of mid Metal Virus, where Amy is just getting overwhelmed with everything, and Cream ends up giving her the pep talk, and Amy basically just is like emotionally overwhelmed. Is like, "You're my hero too, Cream." Just gives her a big hug.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that part hit
God,
hard.
Cream
when I
is so
said-
small there.
I know.
Needle. Yeah, she's on her knees to hug her.
We talk about IDW a lot because that is where these quote unquote canon characters are getting a lot of good moments. But like not too long after that, post introducing Surge and Kit, you have Amy and the other heroes running to the city to help rescue Sonic and Tails.
Yeah.
And Amy teams up with Silver and borrowing a little bit of his, his psychic powers, like whacks the shit out of a bunch of robots with a giant, like 10-ton hammer. And so it's
That's
like,
so cool.
yeah, Amy kicks fucking ass still too. Like when people are like, oh, she's so boring, she's not active. I'm like, come on, man. Like, can you not read these pretty pictures with words on them?
Say you hate women.
Please do.
Just say you hate women. You're not paying attention because you hate women. Period.
And if
And
and I'll top that. If your excuse is I don't want to pay money for them, well then do what I do. Go to your local library, get a membership, and then they probably have an app that has electronic versions of everything, and you can read the comics the way that I do. So there you go. Don't complain
Yeah,
about
and
money.
Support women.
Support women. Go to the library.
Absolutely fucked up notion.
having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Arthur the Aardvark is crying and clapping hearing this.
Jekyll, Jekyll, Hyde, Jekyll, Hyde, Hyde, Jekyll. Jekyll, Hyde.
Oh man, yeah. I guess the one thing that sticks out to me now is people do not like Amy in Frontiers because they think it's wishy-washy and inconsistent, and she's basically redoing her Sonic Adventure story. Which my argument is, well, okay, even though, like I said, I've softened on how Sonic Adventure portrays it, because she does actually seem to have remembered most of the things from Sonic Adventure. Then they spend the next, 15 years and definitely not living up to that Sonic Adventure arc, arguably.
Yeah.
This is my opinion.
So in
but-
Frontiers, she might have well been saying, listen, I've really regressed over the past decade and a half. It's time I did what I set out to do. It's time I actually followed through on that New Year's resolution I made all those years ago.
And that's what makes her very relatable, because we all do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the game does the same thing with Tails and is even more meta about it. I've talked about I like that to where you could have just completely ignored all of the inconsistencies of Tails, but no, you can literally have him say, well, then I'm wildly inconsistent, and address that, and then make a really good moment of that. And I think the same applies to Amy as well, to where, yeah, you reaffirm what makes her an interesting character outside of the bullet points on a corporate PowerPoint introducing this character to like licensing potential licensors.
By the way, prior to this, one of the things that we assembled quite a few comics. We did assemble some Archie ones, and we did some of them were some of the ones were a bit questionable, like the Sonic Adventure adaptation where she took the crown of acorns to
Be older.
Oh yeah, and it was
Oh,
very
boy.
weird and
That's
bad.
extremely weird.
Yeah.
And even later, when Sally finally inducts her as an official freedom fighter, she says something weird like, and you've grown into a beautiful young woman, both in body and mind now. I'm like,
No.
oh God, Sally, please don't remind us.
I'm glad that was undone in like the soft reboot. Although one of the things that I did like that I read as part of our little resources, basically a collection of good Amy things and bad Amy things, was the Treasure Team Tango arc that I think we've mentioned before. It was pre-reboot. And it's a combination of like different Sonic Hero style three-person teams, but it has Amy working with Cream and Blaze in it, and Amy's really good in this. Like, I really like Amy. Yeah, she's still like pushing the whole like she loves Sonic, and she's just like, and she introduces herself to Blaze as like, and I'm Sonic's future sweetheart, and Cream's like, but you're not though. I'm just manifesting destiny here, Cream. Don't worry about it. And that's so powerful.
Every time you say the words manifest destiny, there is something in the back of my head that flips a switch like, whoa.
Phrasing.
Sometimes I forget.
Okay.
It's okay. You're not an American.
Yeah.
That's our whole culture.
I do forget about the things you have there.
Fucked up.
Yeah.
But by the way, one of the things we've got in that is some interesting Shad Amy content, if you're into that kind of thing. See, I knew Mika. I know Mika. It does start, though, with Shadow does beat the ever-loving crap out of Amy, which is great. He does beat her with her own hammer. But later on, she's like trying to appeal to his moral judgment because he's not a bad guy.
No.
Sonic Adventure 2 happened, so she's like, I know you're a good person under that. He's just like, no, I've got to do my job. And she's like, I'm going to get through to that guy. And boy, howdy, is that the kind of content that certain fans would enjoy.
Yippee!
I've said before, I am not a serious shipping person, but I do think at the end of the day, if Amy was going to pick anybody, she should dump that unreliable Sonic and get with the more dependable, hotter Shadow the Hedgehog, if anybody.
So true.
No, that's him. Amy Rose, the aged up 8-year-old, should get together with the 50-year-old hedgehog who's trapped in a lab.
Details.
Oh no.
No, and that's like the ideal Sonic Amy dynamic for me too, is like that they're friends, and then Amy has romantic feelings for him, and he's like, all right, enough of that, calm down, you're just my bro. And then she moves on and gets feelings for someone else, and then Sonic kind of crosses his arms. He's like, well, hold on a second.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't even mind that aspect either.
Like, that's the ideal to me.
Not push too far. Like, we're not talking about, what was the wolf boy's name in Inuyasha?
Koga?
Yeah, Koga, where it's like, now hold on, you can't be nice to another boy. Especially one dubbed by Scott McNeil.
I mean, deep down, we all know who Amy ends up with in the end.
Well,
True,
in STC
true.
specifically, they just decided that's how Nigel Kitching eventually like canonized it in his own brain, apparently. But like, the whole point was Amy Rose and Techno the Canary. Interesting choice for an animal there. Did a lot of teaming up because girl power was the in thing at the time, so they were pushing for that, and they were just like, yeah, let's team them up together, not realizing, we've accidentally made them very shippable. And you know what, that's pretty good. I like to interpret it that way. I like to think that Amy was just like, yeah. Actually, you know what, Amy in STC pretty much just says like, yeah, I've kind of gotten over Sonic now, to be honest. I'm kind of bored of him. I'm just going to manipulate him when I can for the sake of like saving the world. I'm pretty sure I showed that plasma strip where she's just like playing into it. She's just like, oh, anything for you, sweetheart. And Sonic's just like, Amy, no, stop it. I don't like it.
That is I do really like that dynamic, specifically in STC, because I think we brought it up before. It's just such a good, like, it not only shows that Amy is like, oh, she's funny, she's leaning into it, because then she justifies it and says like, well, people need to see Sonic as a hero.
Exactly.
Like he's the one that can shoulder that mantle. But also, yes, Sonic getting embarrassed because like, no, I'm the cool boy that everybody likes. I can't have a girlfriend right now.
It is great though, because she's just like, oh, Sonic takes the credit so well, and like Sonic's just like, well, I guess I beat that guy after Amy actually took out the guy who was controlling the enemy. And she's like, yep, you're always right, Sonic. Oh, that's not what being a woman is to a man like Sonic.
Oof.
So something I wanted to bring up is, like, of course we get the most amount of characterization from the games and then like the comics and the shows and stuff. And I feel like that's kind of some of our absolute main sources of characterization. But even though I do want to take it with a grain of salt, I think that there's something to be said about like some of the lyrical content from like some of her themes over the years. And we've talked about it some already, but I think like there's some good nuggets from at least 3 songs, because originally I had 2, but then I got reminded earlier about the Sonic Heroes one. And I just wanted to like take a few minutes to go through like, you know, some of those, not every single lyric of every single song, but like just some parts here and there.
Some highlights.
Yeah, some highlights that I think really reflect Amy's character. One of the first ones that I wanted to bring out was in verse 1 of My Sweet Passion from Sonic Adventure. It says, I got out my map and chose a place I wanted to go, packed up my stuff, set out for adventure. I know that your lucky color is that cool shade of blue. Won't mind painting myself blue for you. So
started off good.
Yeah,
okay,
and
that's a little concerning.
Yeah.
maybe we'll see. You don't need to change. You don't need to change for a man. That's okay. That's all right.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then like some other little like interesting nuggets in here. And I think this one particularly like kind of speaks a little bit to like early characterization of Amy, especially as like late 90s, early 2000s girl characterization just in general in media. In verse 2 near the end it says, I guess I'm just a self-centered girl, but there are nights that I have trouble going to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's a bit of an eyebrow raiser.
Yeah, like, and like also to be fair, like some of these English lyrics like may have like there's definitely a good chance that something got lost in translation during that time.
Well, yeah, I do know that the lyrics, at least Sonic Adventure, were always written in English, or like they were not translated by anyone in Sega of America. It was maybe they were written in Japanese and then translated by someone, but they were always intended to be in English.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
As far as I know, that is some hearsay I'm repeating, I suppose.
But like even with like the eyebrow raisers in the verses, like the chorus always comes back to some of the stuff we've talked about. Like I think it really boils it down to the basics of like, you know, after the repetitive sweet you're so sweet. Like some of the core lyrics are so many things I want to be a wonderful girl, I'm not simple-minded, and I won't be a pearl. You probably need me just as much as I need you.
Yeah, that's pretty confident.
Yeah. And I think
Daddy.
and I think the chorus really like kind of reflects where Amy ends up at the end of the game.
Yeah, she sure wasn't a pearl by the end of that game.
She was the oyster.
She was an oyster.
She was a clam.
Ready to snap down on that robot that likes bullying little birds.
Then there's, and I'm actually going to share this one because, again, like I completely forgot about this one until before we started the episode. Which, oh yeah, you know what? I'm getting the lyrics from Genius.com, which, you know, especially for stuff like this, is always so fun to look at the comments, the annotations on the site. And I sincerely want to read the one about the Persian
Boy,
cat.
did they ever.
Oh boy.
Man, the Genius annotation on this is so funny to me. It's just, Persian cats are particularly long-haired, while Sphinx cats have... While Sphinx cats have bare skin. It goes on to say, as Amy is characterized as a typical vain valley girl in Sonic Adventure and is interested in starting a family and thus a sexual relationship with Sonic.
Excuse me?
Sorry,
I'm gonna stop you right there,
there's
sir.
more. It is possible this line is a euphemism for Amy's preference in her intimate hygiene.
Oh my god.
Listen.
Sorry.
Listen.
Okay.
I've heard people
It's what everyone thinks, but A, you should not say it, and B, that is definitely not the intent.
No, because like I've seen people do this with so many songs. I think it was Dave Baldwin shared like this whole thing where people were like, did you know that in the Spice Girls song "Wannabe," when they're talking about zigzag R and all that stuff, they're actually talking about their favorite sexual preferences and positions? They're like, no, they're just saying funny words because they're a bunch of funny girls. Zigzag R is just a load of old nonsense. They're just saying things because it's cool. Stop making it weird.
Don't you know that women only think and talk about sex, but if they say it outright, you should shame them? Don't you know that?
Yes. I mean, maybe this is a little too harsh, but if it was any other fandom, I'd be like, oh, this is just somebody taking a piss, but they might think that seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
And you don't, as far as I know, Genius.com basically goes on Wikipedia rules where I think if you can sign up and make an account, you can make an annotation.
Oh, yeah.
Now, to be fair, I'm looking at the annotations on the Follow Me. There is one with a big banner at the top that says, this annotation is unreviewed. So maybe somebody will eventually look at that.
You look at it and be like, Amy Rose shaves her pussy. Oh, great, cool. Again with this.
This is the third time this week.
Hopefully somebody has something to say about the Sonic Heroes lyrics, because I just wasn't prepared for that. But I did think about the fact that when you play as Amy in the Sonic Frontiers DLC, each of the main characters besides Sonic has some background music that plays while you're just roaming the land, and it has lyrics in it. And I always believe that lyrics have at least some reflection of what's happening, especially for a character. For Amy, it's really simplistic in as far as like there's basically just like one stanza that repeats a couple times, but the lyrics for that
Sonic, I want to marry Sonic.
Yeah,
Sonic,
basically.
Sonic. No. Not that game.
But I think it's also cool because it really reflects mostly Amy, but like I think everybody's characterization in that game. And the lyrics from her movement in that is, if you trust your colors, they could be another future waiting for you, maybe if you. And that's it. And that strikes me as really interesting because, all the characters, maybe except for Knuckles, are, and not in a bad way, but like all the characters are going through some sort of growth in that game. And I feel like Amy and Tails are the ones who significantly have the most like internal growth that they're really struggling with. Yeah, I think there's just really something to, if you trust your colors, they could be another future. And I think that helps reflect near the end of her arc, where Amy says that she does have a lot of love to give. And I think if I want to draw that super direct line, she's finally like trusting her colors. And as we joked earlier, she's getting on that New Year's resolution she's been putting off for 15 years.
I'm glad she's trusting in her colors and not choosing to paint herself blue first.
Yes.
So it's character development in these past 15 years or so.
Yeah.
It could even be, assuming it's like a vague reference to the fact that they have gone out of their way to reintroduce like Amy's fortune-telling cards, and just like the fact that she's a little magical. Like, I love in Sonic X established that her hammers literally appear from nowhere out of hammer space. and and the recent with classic Amy and modern Amy in Frontiers, like, oh yeah, she has those fortune cards, which I like, gives almost like a superpower quality to her empathy that, if you want to read it that way, it's I can't say it's explicit. I just like to think that like, oh yeah, that can be part of her skill set, and it kind of can manifest in a physical way.
I do love that. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about the fortune cards, and I'm thinking of that scene from the Sonic CD pre-cut scene that was added to Origins, where she's like, she gets a reading, and then she gets some really bad cards, and she's just like, just going to do a redo there. Nobody look.
I will say, like you said, Jake, about the Follow Me, the Team Rose theme. It is very funny that like this is straight up a song about Amy. Like, I'm sorry, there's no way to fit Cream and Big in here.
Yeah, they just got shoved to the wayside.
They're just her accessories.
it is just a fun, positive song that it, if you want to read it, it's like, yeah, it's about her. Oh, she's obsessed with Sonic, but also if you want to look at it another way, she is just talking about how genuinely happy she is to like have Sonic be in her life.
Yeah.
And I think it's good. And yeah, like I said, it's catchy as hell. Maybe not that deep, but it doesn't have to be.
Such a good song.
By the way, we keep mentioning it, and I don't know if we've actually leaned into it till now, but Amy's weapon is an interesting thing, isn't it? The Pico hammer.
Love it.
That is her equalizer, because she's not I guess she doesn't have the super abilities of the other characters, at least until stuff like Superstars, where they gave her the spin dash and whatnot. But and actually Heroes, yeah, too. But basically, isn't it cool that she's got a hammer? I know it's it's based on a toy, especially the one in Sonic the Fighters where she got originally. It was based on one of those little kids' toys that makes a funny noise, a little Pico noise when you hit it. That's where the name comes from. But over time, it has become no. This hammer does damage. It can murder you.
Oh, she wrecks.
It gives Knack the Weasel / Fang the Hunter Sniper legitimate trauma in various forms of media. It's oh god, the hammer.
It gives Amy that edge that's for those people who are wanting to judge her as okay, she's just the waifish, always in trouble girl character, she'll get kidnapped, whatever. It's no, she has that edge. It's she'll mess you up, and it's not going to be hard for her either with that hammer.
I know. I kind of like that Sonic Adventure gave her so many maybe superfluous moves, but I love the hammer launcher for when she's running top speed and just goes into a gymnastics routine just because it's so cool looking.
So cool.
Man, my favorite thing with that is when she gets sent to the past and you can run up the stairs and do it, and then I always try to get as high as I can, and then I just make her flip a million times before she gets down to the ground.
Yep. I think there's even a reference to that in Frontiers. It might be the stomp move where you hold it and you jump back up, and she does some of those. I don't even know what you call them. They're lariats. They're spins. It's very cool. But I always like that. But yeah, that Amy is. It's I think it strikes a good balance to, and not to get in too deep on the subject, but yeah, that she is a feminine girl, but is also physically capable, but you don't have to trim those edges. Like you said, hacky cartoon writing, to where she's oh, but I'm actually masculine. It's no, that's just part of her. She's part of her character.
Yeah.
No, this rose has thorns, you know?
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
She's feminine, powerful, and they're not going to back away from that just to try and make her seem I don't know, better because not a woman.
And I'm glad that they still have other characters around that kind of do that. Blaze is more is not as feminine as Amy, but that is part of her character as well. And then you have characters that you'd straight up call tomboyish, Tangle. And so you have that, and you don't have to force other characters into that mold just to try and, like you said, oh, we don't know what to do with this character. Well, let's just start changing them. And I think Amy nowadays has escaped that. They have finally found a good balance in her character.
Yeah.
And it is interesting, part of the reason they gave her the hammer to begin with is to keep her cute and also make it so that she doesn't have to punch people, which I suppose, it kind of fits the sort of cutesy little image that she had in that game. But like I said, over time, it really is just no, it will fuck you up. Look at that thing. It doesn't matter that she's not socking dudes left and right. She can, she can destroy you. It's great. It is funny to me that, long before the hammer was a thing, STC also decided to give her a weapon, and their decision was just let's give her a crossbow.
So cool.
Well, actually, they gave her a regular bow and arrow to begin with, but I guess they were just well, we need to give her something. I guess they needed a ranged character, is what they were looking at. They need someone to hit things from a distance, and they gave her an actual crossbow, and because as they joked, that's why they called her AIM.
I do always love to point out in STC, there's the one where Sonic and Amy go back to the little planet, and there is someone who's been hiding using Robotnik's robot parts as like an exoskeleton as armor, and Sonic is talking to this person and realizing, oh, it's just been a misunderstanding, and Amy sees him from, maybe about 10 yards away and fires a bolt straight at the back of his neck, and Sonic has to like casually snatch it out of the air with his speed because she would have murdered this person. And it's like, oh wow, Amy does not hesitate.
Should have just given her a gun, let's be honest.
Yeah.
She's always got one in the chamber. Something that I'm really noticing as we've been talking about this is, in my opinion, Amy's really been well balanced as a character for her whole run. There's just the one, in my view, the one major thing that has caused friction and like negativity with her is just like when certain writers get a hold of her and cause her obsession with Sonic to become an actual obsession to the detriment of her character. Because otherwise, I think she's actually like a really well balanced like female character. She's not so far one way or the other. She's not, the woman wimp, but she's not also like the super tough, like, is she actually a woman kind of thing,
Yeah.
And I hope I'm not being reductive when I say that, but like, I'm just trying to give examples.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
I mean, I'm just going to say, I'm glad they didn't Princess Peach her from the Super Mario Brothers movie, where they were just like, oh no, Peach is kind of a notorious damsel in distress. Let's completely overcorrect her and take away any of her, they didn't get rid of her femininity in the terms of, like, her design, although I don't think the design is as good, but they just, like, no, she needs to be a complete, competent badass who never does anything wrong. And I'm just like, I get why they did that, but it's shit.
Yeah.
And that's just what I hate. Like, you can have a character be feminine and maybe, like, not always be the strongest in every situation, and it doesn't mean that they're a bad character. It's just sometimes you've got to thread that needle, and sometimes you're just like, no, throwing it off. I'm using a sewing machine. We're starting from scratch.
And I get it to some extent, thinking from a writer's point of view, that is easier than, it's easier to make like you said, the classic, the girl of the group, like, super cool and capable and doesn't do anything wrong, than to try and, like you said, thread the needle and... just because, man, it's really hard not to go down to, like, there are a lot of cultural things like, hey, man, it's hard to have women characters, or even just, like, femme characters in general, without a certain group of people, like, already getting up in arms for really stupid reasons. Yeah. And so I do get, on some level, like, we joke about it. It's like, oh, yeah, it's the gaslight gatekeep girl boss. Like, that is an easier thing to do than to try and actually take a classically damsel in distress character and try and flesh them out. But I wish people would, because the other one is, like you said, it's just not interesting. Yeah, it's safe, and like, you're going to, like, that Mario movie, for all of, there is a lost podcast of me and Faulerro just talking about how much we don't like it, but which is fine if you did. It's okay to like a movie, but that movie made a bajillion gorillion dollars, so
Gorillion?
It does succeed.
Banana.
I will say, as much as I'm always, like, diving to the defense of STC, over time, Amy the character of Amy becomes a bit safe. Like, yeah, it's cool that she's hanging around with Techno all the time, but as, like, surmised by the guys on STCTP, the female characters are just kind of there to react to what's going on, and act largely unaffected by the plot, because they're just like, we need to have these girl power characters now because that's what's in, so can't really do anything with them. They can't really make them characters now. They're just going to bounce around to be the cool ones. And yeah, like, they get reduced a little bit, and it's a bit sad.
Yeah.
They are cool and they are capable, but even some of my favorite STC stories I've experienced now, it is like, oh, things are happening to them, not really because of them. And again, like that is fine. It's just it can be more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's something that I think that IDW has done a really good job with over the years.
Women are allowed to have flaws. It's great.
Or I mean, some of IDW, it's not even flaws. It's like, oh, Amy's allowed to share her negative feelings, like talk about how she's tired and frustrated and overwhelmed, and like you said, that multiple characters, not just Amy, not just the girls in that comic, are allowed to do that. I mean, Sonic the friggin' Hedgehog does that throughout the entire Metal Virus arc, where his entire, we've mentioned, like, his entire worldview is challenged.
It's just when Amy's not talking about Sonic, I am uncomfortable when it's not about Sonic.
Does this issue pass the Hedgedel test?
There we go.
Oh, let's see. She's talking to Cream. Oh, but it's about Sonic. Okay.
There it is.
So I wanted to ask and talk about Mika. I wanted to get kind of your story about, like, how did you first encounter Amy, and like what initially drew you to her as a character? And I guess to that extent, like, why are you such a, in a good way, why are you such a fierce cheerleader of Amy to this day?
Oh, it's funny because I kind of thought I'd already sort of explained that pretty well. I don't really remember. I want to say that my first introduction to Amy was literally Sonic Adventure, but I'm not 100% certain because I was really young. But basically, well, first and foremost, I thought she was really cute. And I don't think there's any arguing that her design is just cute. I like the pink and the red and the white. I liked her hammer, just everything. I was like, oh, she's so, like, cute. And I like her attacks. And but secondly, I think I pretty much already hinted at when we were talking about her, like, what endeared me to her. Well, first and foremost, I liked that she wasn't like I just wish my beloved would notice me, and she's, like, secretive about it, and, like, it doesn't do anything. She's constantly in Sonic's face, like, when are you gonna propose to me? When are we married? I'm gonna be your wife. Like, she makes absolutely no secret of her feelings about it. And also, even when he's like we were talking earlier about that bit in the comics where Cream is like, isn't he with someone else? Aren't you being delusional? And she's just like, that's my man. I was like, yeah, hell yeah, girl. Get your man. Like, I always thought that was so charming about her. But then on top of that, because that immediately made me like, for some people, again, they just look at that and they're like, ew, annoying. What the heck? Get over it. But I was like, yeah, girl, you get him. Like, that was always my impression, was like, I like that she sticks to her guns. I also like that on top of that, she had more to her character. It's like, she's compassionate, she's capable, she's very, like we've said before, like, in a situation, she has agency, and she has, like, a good head on her shoulders, actually. So, and even though she's delusional for Sonic, she's not delusional in general, Yeah. So that was really, I think that the Sonic Adventure game set me off with that. And then, again, I was very, very young. And then I kind of remember watching Sonic X and then kind of getting more of the vibe of, okay, I wish she could be on screen for 5 minutes and not talk about Sonic now. But it's like, even though I like that bit, I was like, oh, come on, I know there's more to her. But yeah, that's basically what did it for me. Though I have to say, with all that, being that young and also surrounded by other people, might I say other young girls who hated Amy, set me apart from them in a way that I was like, shut up, I love her, screw you guys.
Get your internalized misogyny out of my face. I love Amy Rose.
No, listen here. The messed up part is, though, and I'm much better now, is when I was not blameless at that age, because at that age, I hated Rouge.
Oh, no.
So I'd be like crossing my arms like, shut up, how could you hate Amy? She's my favorite character, shut up. And then I'd see Rouge and be like, this bitch.
Back then you were like, oh, Rouge is bad, but now you're like, oh, Rouge is a baddie.
Rouge is the best. Okay, but also the very sad and shameless thing to that is when I was 12, I was in love with Knuckles. So to me, Rouge was like competition to that, and I was like,
that's it. I knew there was a reasoning for this.
It had to be that, because on paper, if Rouge was separated from all of that, I'd be like, oh, she's so cool. I want to be just like her. She's so pretty, like whatever. And she's like, she's more, let's say, mature. So as a young girl, you're like, oh, that's so cool. I want to be just like her. But then, like, she was competition for Knuckles. So I was like, this bitch.
And what you didn't realize is all of your aggression should have been towards the Master Emerald, which is the real one getting in the way of any relationship with Knuckles.
That's funny.
Oh, I like it when girls say I'm funny. Anyway.
Oh my god, all men are same. You know how many times I've heard that recently, specifically directed at me? I think it's because I have a habit of, like, when someone really makes me laugh, I say, oh, you're so funny, that, like, like, it's just something that I say. All of my male friends will, like, twirl their hair and be like, I like when girls say I'm funny.
I'm glad you say it like that, though, and you don't say, like, oh, you're so funny.
You're so funny. Me after not laughing, and I stare at a wall and I go, oh, you're so funny.
And when I was editing the episode of Rocher Hotel, I was like, oh man, Mika sure is doing lots of polite laughter here.
If it sounds like polite laughter, it's just coming out wrong. Sometimes I laugh and it just sounds sarcastic. I promise that if I don't think something's funny, I'll just sit there and be silent. Even through, like, that period of time when, like, I was young and I was watching, like, Sonic X and stuff like that, and she was quote unquote at her worst. I've always been shameless and unapologetic because I'm still like, even when she's the Amy whose defining character trait is I like Sonic, that's it, I'm just like, yeah, girl, you go.
Honestly, I really feel you and agree with you, Mika, about Amy really sticking to her guns about, like, liking Sonic, because as somebody who enjoys, romance anime, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, I hear you there.
Says the Love Hina fan in the room.
Yeah. I tried to abridge it once and got one episode in. But yes, somebody who's been watching it over the years, like, of course, I've been able to pick up better on, like, what makes a good romantic character and possible foil in a show, and then what's just, like, trite and stupid. And, like, I've come to really appreciate characters who do, like either from the get-go or learn pretty quickly, like, oh, I like this person and I'm gonna let them know. I'm not gonna just, like, sit and twiddle my thumbs about it forever, because like whether it's like, no matter, like, the gender or sex of the character, it just in general character writing, like, somebody who just sits there and twiddles their thumbs and doesn't do anything but has big dreams, it's great to have dreams. You should go for it. But if you're not going to do anything and, like, whine about it, then that's not endearing as a character. And Amy at least, like, tries to act for it.
Don't be a bitch.
Especially in situations where it's clearly one-sided, it can be just frustrating and irritating to be like, well, they don't like you anyway. When you get the person who takes initiative, it's like, wow, that's really bad. Like, here's what I think a lot too, is that, like, if I imagine myself again as, like, a teenager and I, like, try to go back to, like, me in high school, somebody I had a crush on or whatever, the balls that it takes to look at someone and be like, I like you, I'm attracted to you, I want to go out with you, insane.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Amy does not care. And I just think that that's really cool, especially for a girl, when, I don't know, maybe it's because of anime, I'm just so used to them being so docile and being like, oh, I just can't say it. And it's like, she does not care. She's like, I love you. I love you.
The wallflower pining from afar.
Yeah.
I mean, it says, like, considering what you told me about how you and Bonesaw got together, that checks out, actually.
What did I say? I don't remember what I
I think you were
said.
saying, like, I think you said one of the, like, early on, he was like, he literally told you, like, he wants to have sex with you. And that's how you found out that you liked.
Well, here's the thing, though, too, is that, like, I really, for people who don't know, this is my boyfriend that I've been with for almost 5 years now, so it's been a while, is that I also had to force myself to be really ballsy with him because he's, I'm not going to say stupid, maybe just a bit, he's just a bit naive? I don't know what the word is exactly, but, like, he wasn't getting it. And I remember specifically, I said to him once, like, I said something like, you're so cool. I'm, like, obsessed with you. And he was like, that's so nice. And I was like, he's not getting it. He was literally just always like, Mika is such a nice friend. And even when, like, I told him, like, I'm not just attracted to you sexually. Like, I feel like a romantic attraction to you, whatever. He was like, really? And I was like, oh my God, this guy. Like, he was happy because he was romantically interested in me, but he was just like, really? So I can respect the guts that it takes to just look at someone and be like, yeah, I like you, like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think y'all bringing that up is I really just I have a problem when that part of Amy does just come across as more less her and more, like you said, like anime tropey. And I know that's really reductive, and I hope people understand what I mean. Like you said, like, oh, we're talking about, like you said, I can barely stand it when he's around, but I don't know how to say, or even, Amy does that sometimes, but I just think it plays more when she doesn't. Like you said, when she's much more direct.
To go off of that too, Amy is much better when she's not superficial. When she's superficial and she's just like, oh, I love him so much, we're gonna get married and have a million babies, blah blah, and she's like not really grounded in reality at all, it gets old. But when she has those moments where she's like, I don't just like you because like I want to have a boyfriend, like I like you as a person, I'm attracted to the kind of person that you are, that's when it's really cool. It's like, that's when she's believable. It's like, yeah, she's clearly motivated by the fact that she cares really deeply about this guy. She's not just obsessed with having a husband or whatever.
And at the very least, I can relate to really caring about Sonic the Hedgehog as a small child. So I get it, Having my life revolved around Sonic was how I got in trouble as a kid because I wouldn't stop drawing him and writing about him.
That's the secret.
So
That's the secret, everybody. You have to realize it's like, subtract the fact that Amy is a girl and realize she just thinks Sonic is the coolest, and so do you. You have that in common.
You want to marry Sonic too.
You're just like,
in a way.
Shoot, if I was a cute girl, pink hedgehog, I would probably look at him and say, yeah, let's get married.
In fact, spend a little while thinking about, being a cute pink girl hedgehog, and see if that works for you. Come back to us
Try
later.
to put yourself in her shoes.
Man, if we could just get this out into the world, I think we could solve misogyny as a whole.
We thought we would be doing the opposite, but we're actually defeating misogyny right now.
Oh, I think you were going to try and lead us into Prime, Luke.
Oh, yeah.
There's no easy way to segue this at this point. So Amy was also in Prime, sort of.
3 times.
Yeah.
Well, 4, I guess, but
Obviously, real Amy was only there for, the briefest of moments.
Whoa.
The
Real
first and last
Amy?
episode.
Whoa.
I know what I said.
Oh,
I know what I said.
this is exactly what caused the whole 9 incident, Luke. You are not bad as Sonic.
I know what I said.
The good Amy, the Amy we give a shit about? No, that's being too mean to the other Amys. They were actually one of the only characters with character arcs.
I think that the 3 Amys were somehow, like, of all the different doppelgangers that showed up in that show, outside of, like, Amy was probably the only one where all 3 of her incarnations had, like, a lot going for them in terms of, like, character depth and, really kind of developing as a whole. Because it's like, you've got Rusty, who goes through a whole character arc figuring out, like breaking off from the Chaos Council and
realizing she's still a person,
getting to that point of self-actualization. Yeah. And then eventually like capping off with her freeing the bird inside her. Then you've got Thorn, who basically goes through an entire arc in just the Spotlight episode alone. Like, and then, goes on to be like one of the stronger fighters on the, Sonic's team. And then you've got Black Rose, who basically starts off as the supporting character who grows into leadership to become the captain of the Angel's Wing by the time the whole series is over. And it's like, it's cool that like, even when she's not there, a lot of these 3 characterizations really do feed into a lot of those same characteristics that we've talked about with Amy, even if they don't like kind of have to shove the Sonic crushing to the wayside just because like they don't have a Sonic equivalent in their universes.
But if you care about like actual Amy Rose, like Mika, I'm sure, who hasn't watched Prime, I'm fairly certain.
No, I have not.
No, then you're probably not going to care much about this discussion.
Yeah. I can't say I've had much interest in watching it.
It's got some good fight scenes. That's the
Really?
best. And the cast is pretty good. The voice cast.
I like how by the end, the three Amy's were basically like working totally in tandem and treating each other literally as sisters as they describe themselves.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cute way of developing it.
But that's about it.
Yep.
I wanted to at least, bring it up because it was like the one incarnation of Amy that we had not touched upon during this discussion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, it's interesting because this is to my knowledge, this is the kind of the first and only version of Amy who, from the get-go, doesn't have any sort of infatuation with Sonic at all. And it's interesting to see that version of Amy who, like we said, still has like the characteristics from the past that we've talked about, like, self-actualization from Sonic Frontiers and strength from just the games in general, and leadership capabilities from like the comics and like some of the games as well. And I also think it's a genuinely good example in storytelling to anyone, but in my opinion, especially younger girls, of like how you can form strong female friendships. I mean, obviously without the world ending, but but
it's not necessary.
Yeah, like the world doesn't have to end to still be friends to the point of calling each other sisters.
Aw.
And that's just because I remember hearing stories in middle and high and even college of just the really crappy way girls would treat other girls.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
As someone with a female partner, I've also heard stories.
Same here.
Oh boy.
It's a battle.
That could be like its own podcast. I could sit here and just talk about, like, yeah, women are great, but oh my god, we're experts at being shitty to each other too.
I would listen. I would absolutely listen.
Anyway, we managed to get something good out of Prime there. Sorry, I sound like I'm being so negative. In the end, we were like, it's okay. I just wish it ended sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well.
Or it just didn't, the overarching story did not stick the landing, but it had some really good individual episodes, and most of them were about Amy, a version of Amy Rose.
We do not need to relitigate this for, what is this, 7th hour that we spent discussing this show?
True. Okay, well, do we want to end on talking about the voice actors, or do we want to wrap up?
I feel like we could just at least gloss over it a little bit. I just want to... Hey, everyone. This is the point of the podcast where we decided we want to get a little controversial. There's a can of worms on the table, and I think it's about time we opened it because I hate myself. Something that we've been talking about on the side is... who is everyone's favorite, like, voice actor performance of Amy Rose? Because there have been quite a few over the years, and I feel like it's a topic we don't talk about too much because we can essentially upset people, but I just feel like it's worth talking about the things we like about Amy's voice. Anyone want to start?
Okay, I'll go first. I'll go first.
Jeremy.
Okay, I think I'm going to have a unique answer where at the end of the day, I think probably my favorite performance on the whole is probably her longtime Japanese actor, which is Taiko Kawata, which has literally played Amy since Sonic Adventure. Although I did not know this until I looked it up. Apparently a different actress plays her in Sonic Shuffle. It's Emi Motoi, which I never heard of that before. But there's just something about Taiko's voice that it's one of those, I would say, to keep it in the Sonic family, it's like Cream's Japanese voice. I just don't know how you copy that performance because it's a very specific, like, fairly high-pitched, kind of airy performance that's also very cute as Amy Rose. And it's just really good at striking, like, it's funny when she gets angry, but it's very earnest when she's like, you know, the big moment in Sonic Adventure 2. And I just think that it's mostly the most consistent Amy performance. I think Jennifer Dullard in those, you know what? I've never, apologies. I realized I've never had to say it out loud. I don't want to mispronounce her name, but I think I am. But Jennifer in the adventure games is, I think, pretty good and is better in games like Sonic Heroes, aside from, like I said before, like the dub kind of misses out on those great jokes. But when it's not as, like, stilted as Sonic Adventure is, everybody knows what I mean. We can love those performances and agree they're a little stop and starty. I don't know if I was ever like Jennifer was my favorite and was like, you know, like when they started changing casts, I was like, oh no, you know, I hope that doesn't sound too mean. It was just like, it was good and sometimes it was bad. And like we always say when we're discussing voice actors, that always comes down to like the script and direction they were given.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's more like I would have liked to have seen like that classic cast be able to like get as much experience as the original Japanese cast. But hey, but that's just not how it worked out. I loved Lisa Ortiz as an actor. I was never super big on her Amy. Was never a super fan of like her big, like loud reactions as Amy that definitely seemed like whoever was directing her was saying like, hey, you gotta be louder. The kids gotta hear you. Which, like we said, paired with some of the off episodes of Sonic X just make her seem really annoying. But yeah, I again acknowledge like Lisa Ortiz is a great actor. Like people love the Slayers dubs like for a reason because they're just that damn good. Cindy Robinson is another where, like we talked about, she started off sounding very different. She was definitely doing the Minnie Mouse thing in the couple of clips from Sonic Colors DS up until, you know, all the way to Lost World. And then basically once Sonic Boom came around, that voice started to relax more into its own character. And like, again, people are really down on her performance in Frontiers, but I think she's just matching what the rest of the cast was directed to do is like, no, like bring it even more down, like very conversational. And I get people are like, well, it doesn't sound like the Japanese voice, and it doesn't, but then they've never really done that with Amy. Like, and I don't know if they should. Like, I would even argue the fact that all of the English voices for Cream have tried to copy her Japanese voice is probably a mistake, because that's just such a different kind of voice. But I really like Cindy these days, and she really shines in, like I said, more loosey-goosey, unscripted stuff, or not unscripted, but like character interactions like the Tails Tube shorts, and like I said, she's really good in Boom. Gun to my head, I had to pick a favorite. It's probably Taiko Kawata, but I really enjoy Cindy these days. She's just really good and brings a really good energy to Amy that I appreciate.
Yeah, basically, whenever you ask Jeremy's opinions for Sonic voice actors, basically what he's saying is, I'm a weeb. But I don't blame you.
It's more, for Sonic, it's more like out of a necessity, because that's the only thing that has not changed 100,000 billion times in the Sonic franchise is the Japanese cast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, just to bring up again, I don't think it's ever been confirmed, but I think the sound bites in Sonic CD might be Lynn Harris, who was the voice for the original Rebecca Chambers.
Oh, interesting.
I think that is a rumor. I just think it's fascinating if those two tiny little sound bites from Sonic CD are actually a person.
Just that little chuckle that she does when she grabs Sonic. You might miss, you know?
and the yip when Metal Sonic takes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. And we also need to make sure we give Shin and Chan Kent her flowers for Amy in Prime, because that's a really
it's a
really solid performance. And I know we brought this up the first time around, but it's still really funny that she did not play like the super Sonic obsessed Amy, considering that she was also Misa Amane and Death Note.
Misa.
Yes. And as we said before, was actually in the first Sonic movie.
It's true.
Canada.
Good old
Or,
Canada.
excuse me, Vancouver.
Got to be specific.
Specifically.
Yep.
When it comes to a lot of these discussions amongst the Sonic fandom, I will say that, God, I hate to generalize a little bit, but a lot of people put so much stock in what the characters sound like vocally rather than their actual performances. And I know that's often an important thing to make a character sound like, you know, the voice is coming from the character. But more often than not, a lot of the time I'll be like, well, this sounds like what Sonic should sound like. This sounds like what Amy should sound like. And it's not, and that the performance will be just, you know, I love the Dreamcast era of the cast, but some of those performances were a little wonky due to the nature of the directing and everything. And so I when I say, like, I really love the Dreamcast voice for Amy because it's got a great tone, I also acknowledge that sometimes it didn't sound so great, like, in terms of an actual performance. And I feel that's, like, a recurring thing for a lot of Sonic cast members. I'm like, I really like the tone of the voice. I really like Lisa Ortiz's actual voice because it sounds like nothing else I've ever heard, but also it was a 4Kids dub, so you know what you're getting. So I don't know, my actual favourite is really hard to pin down. I really am high on Cindy Robinson right now, even if that's not necessarily what comes to mind when I think of Amy Rose. Certainly older Amy Rose, considerably older Amy Rose, it feels like at this point. It's definitely a deeper voice, and it works for what they're doing in the games right now. I don't know who my favourite is, though, when it comes to the voice. Japanese one is actually rather good now I think about it, even if she is one of many characters who gets to yell Sonic-Ku really loud and extended for a long time. Sonic-Ku! Anyone else got any thoughts on this?
My opinion is so boring. I was hoping.
Oh.
I was like, I should say something because otherwise I swear people are going to be like, why did Mika have nothing to say here? But it's because I don't really have a favorite Amy voice. I'm probably most endeared to Lisa Ortiz, but that's just nostalgia talking. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think she's like, you know, like you were saying, like she's a good voice actress. It's just voice direction can cause some things to happen, but
Boy, things happen, all right.
Actually, the most messed up part is the exact thought I had when I was like, who is my favorite Amy voice actress? Like, I have no opinion. And then I had the exact thought, I'm like, the best Amy voices that I've ever heard were fan-made ones.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's like, I first of all don't remember any of their names. I'm sorry. If you're somebody out there that does like that whole fan-made voice acting thing and you're Amy, you're just cool. So whatever. I'm sorry that I don't remember your name. You're just a cool person from the get-go. But secondly,
so what you're saying is your favorite Amy voice was me in the very first revision of Sonic F.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I'm so honored.
But I would say as long as she's kind of high pitched and a little nasally, that's all I can really ask for.
Yeah, you know, I am Mr. like do not enjoy the 4Kids era for a lot of reasons. I do think I can say that Lisa Ortiz's Amy probably was one of the few that I would say is probably better in the games than in Sonic X, the 4Kids dub. Just because I'm sure the situation was different. There probably was different direction, and it fit much better in those later games.
Yeah. She was kind of the blueprint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's another thing. Like that is why we're hesitant to bring up voice actors, because it's so complicated. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just it's all goes back to Sega, to where it's not just, oh, I don't like this voice. It's like, oh, you probably don't like this voice, or maybe you're not hot on one performance, because we know for a fact that like when they brought the 4Kids voices in, they were like, just copy the old ones.
Yeah.
And like I am almost 100% sure, like in the beginning, they probably told Roger Craig Smith the same thing. So you are getting a copy of a copy of a copy. And that is why this current cast sounds so different now, because they probably said, oh, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should let these professional actors actually take their own spin on these characters and voices instead of trying to copy these other performances and, you know, making fans feel like they're crazy.
By the way, you're so right about Roger. If you heard like the first lines he recorded for like Alton Towers,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah, and yeah, even though he's like, "Whoa, check out the consoles!" Hey!
I think we've played that before.
It's a good one. Though. It's fantastic moment in time before they realize, no, we don't need to make him do that.
No, it was right before Colors came out. I remember listening to those leaked files on the internet, and my blood turned to ice. Like, oh no!
I can't do this again.
And then, in my opinion, it turned out fine. But hey, we're not ending our Amy episode with getting into the voice actor wars.
Yeah.
Oh, Luke and Jake, save us.
Please.
I think I can keep it simple as far as voice actors. While Jennifer Dullard like definitely has, you know, like a soft spot in my mind and in my heart, just like because mostly of Sonic Adventure 1, you know, Amy Rose. Honestly, I think my favorite is Cindy Robinson because her performance as Amy in Sonic Frontiers really sold me, and I just really took notice of that, and it affected me in a really good way. So I think honestly, and we talked about it earlier, like in the early days, unfortunately, like even though like Lisa Ortiz and Jennifer Dullard are, you know, great actors on their own, it comes down to the direction in the script. And I think Cindy Robinson has been able to benefit the most from like the best writing and now like some of the best direction, including probably some of her own self-direction because of her own skill throughout the years. But nonetheless, like objectively, in my opinion, I genuinely enjoy Cindy Robinson the most.
Sorry, objectively, in my own opinion.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
that was a stupid thing for me to say.
No, it's great. That's how most people conduct these sort of things.
This is
online.
true.
Yeah, you're just playing into the Sonic fan. In
Oh
you.
no!
Oh my god.
Deleting Twitter off my phone, even though I don't use it anyway.
Oh, we should all do that anyway, probably.
Yeah.
Ugh, current topics are.
Well, we've already joked before that Chris said that I'm the normie of the group because I don't use Twitter.
Yeah,
Good for you.
it's helped you so much.
Oh, it's because you said that it was. I'm mentally healthy because of it.
It's using you well.
That's
Yes.
how we can tell.
Aw.
All right, Luke, you got to come in and say something funny now.
I mean, I think that Cindy Robinson is probably my favorite, but that's only because she is like the one actor who has gotten to basically cover all of the different versions of Amy, like across the spectrum of characterization that we've talked about thus far.
Wow, yeah.
Just by virtue of getting to explore that range and do like approach all of these different versions of Amy. Like, I think that her voice has kind of cemented itself in my head because it is the one that has done all this stuff. So it makes sense that when I'm, you know, reading even the early comics or some of the later ones or whatever else have you, it's the one that I hear just because such is the nature of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know who should be our favourite voice actor for Amy?
Mystic Pyro Freak.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Sonic
Yay,
Cat, because she's
Courtney.
fantastic.
Yes.
That's correct.
I do want to give special shout out to Amy's voice actor from Sonic Prime, Shannon Chan Kent, just because of the fact that she had to play 4 different versions, and I think she did a great job with all 4.
Yeah.
Aw.
Well, we've voiced our opinions on that particular topic, so hopefully we won't get any... hopefully we have managed to avoid some landmines on that one. Sorry, everyone, we just have opinions on things.
Yes. Feel free to give us that sweet, sweet engagement down in the comments.
We gotta do it, but sorry, we have to have a part of the podcast now where we're like, okay, how do we upset people? That's how we're sure we're gonna get engagement.
Are you kidding? You're already doing a podcast about Amy and saying nice things about her. You're already playing with fire. Who cares?
Yes, but we're doing a podcast about Amy with a woman on it, so we're ahead of the game.
It's like the only
Oh,
reason
man.
that I'm here. Because if it was all men, all of the comments would just be like, are you kidding?
Thank you for validating us.
You're welcome. But of course, you specifically chose a woman who's going to be like, I love Amy. Woohoo.
That does make me wonder, just like, what would FangGuu say about Amy?
Oh man,
Does she not like her?
Awkward Fangs. I don't know. We've not really asked.
She has weird taste.
We know
in
her
things.
opinions on Rouge the Bat, that she's got the horn for her. And we know her opinions on Porker Lewis specifically, in that she wants him dead.
Hello, it's FangGuu, and I'm interrupting to give you my thoughts on Amy Rose over the years. My very philosophical opinions about her, yeah. Starting off with, whatever the f*** this is. Oh shit, a rat. I'm fucking throwing a shoe at it, doing a dance, nasty. Moving on, classic Amy Rose. Very cute, very charming, has very kid sister energy, which is, I feel like, what they wanted for her in the beginning, so, it played its part. But then, we moved on to modern Amy Rose, and that is where we peaked. The go-go boots, the hoop skirt, the headband, the hairstyle. So cute, she's cute maxing, she's winning. And then we took like 7 steps back with Sonic the Comic Amy Rose, broke into a Goodwill ass looking bitch. And what's that hairstyle? Why does she wield a crossbow? Get this bitch out of here. Then we go to Sonic Boom Amy Rose, and I like this Amy Rose a lot. She's not she's not the Sonic Adventure Amy Rose, but she's really cute. I like the thigh highs, and I like that her sneakers have like this very subtle paw look to them. Really cute. Yeah, it's a good design. I like it. The dress, it's all good. And then we go to Rusty Rose. No, that's too much bot, not enough babe. Just no. And then we got Thorn Rose. Fuck yeah, Onga, bunga babe, Onga. Good look, good fucking look. Keep that up, keep that. You know what? She should. Yeah, just you know what? Make that a character actually. Just full time. And then we got Black Rose. Isn't that from The Hack? No? Okay, well that just looks like a fucking costume DLC. I don't really have much of an opinion about this. I mean, I guess it's cool. I don't know, just pretty stock. And that's my opinion on all the Amy Roses. You may notice that I don't want to sex any of them. Sorry. I need big titties. Thank you for listening.
Let's talk about who we want to die.
I don't think I feel that. I feel strongly. This is a thing about me because I don't remember who said it. Someone's like, "Oh, I don't care about shipping or whatever." I'm like, usually I don't, but I'm weirdly opinionated about people's Sonic ships. And if you genuinely are like Son Amy is Endgame, I'm kind of like, ew. But
as Jeremy said, it is the vanilla ice cream of the Sonic shimmy.
I like
kind of boring and
Me too.
I don't know. It could just be so much more interesting if Amy was with like literally anybody else. But live your truth, I guess. So I'm like way more opinionated about that. But like characters in general, I'm just like, oh yeah, they're okay. I don't think I have anybody where I'm just like, die.
What about Amy Infinite?
Amy Infinite?
Oh, are we talking about ships here specifically? I don't know.
It seems like
Mika's
a doomed
played
ship.
Forces.
I've never encountered anyone who cares about that.
I know, that's why I said it. I was just being silly.
Okay, because I was like, is that a thing that like has a fan base? I had
Absolutely
no idea. No.
I don't know. Actually, there's always someone who's a big fan about one very hyper-specific thing in the Sonic fandom. So
that's true, and even with ships, if it's like, if these two characters exist in Sonic, there's somebody that's like, oh yeah, this is my ship, no matter how problematic, no matter how unbelievable, no matter anything, there's somebody that's like, this is everything to me.
More power to them.
Well, here's how that ship would go. Shadow would do the thing of like, you're weak. And if it goes, no, I'm not. And then he has a fit. And then Amy's like, no, but you're not actually weak. You're strong. Oh, love?
Love?
Oh, that is the most male character moment we've had so far.
I was gonna say, Infinite seems like the kind of guy who'd be like, oh, a woman was nice to me. That means they love me, right?
Now that's realism.
No, Infinite. She's just the cashier at McDonald's.
She just remembered your usual order. She's not that into you.
She's just one of the helpers at Home Depot. She showed you where the faucets are.
We need to end this episode, I think. We've actually covered everything now.
If we get to the point that we're discussing ships, I think maybe it's time to cut things off.
We've got a little bit left. We've got the tiny little bit left.
Let's talk about Amy and Big. They're on the same team.
They could be smooching. I think they should just be friends.
We all know Big and Froggy are exclusive.
Yeah, this is true.
My god. They're strictly monogamous.
So I guess that more or less brings us to the end of our discussion. So to kind of pull it all together after all of this, where do you think like the ideal balance is for Amy? Like you've got the two kind of sides of the thing, you know, the fangirl Amy, the girl boss Amy. What do you think is, like, to kind of conclude things, what do you think is the right balance between the two? And, you know, what would you like to see them do with her character going forward?
Well, if I can speak on this.
Please.
No! Shut up, woman!
Shut up, woman! This isn't about you!
Chris, just say you hate women.
Just say you hate women. My ideal Amy, is there a way to balance them? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we've already kind of touched on, like, what it is that we like about, like, when Amy is at her best, what do we like? And it's never, like, totally erasing fangirl Amy. We don't want that gone.
Yeah.
I think as long as she maintains her agency, as long as she maintains, like, her other character, and, you know, ideal Amy also, like, we get to see more about her hobbies and things that she likes and whatever. But maintaining the agency, maintaining the confidence, the fact that, you know, she's a very compassionate person is important, outside of just Sonic, but compassionate just about people in general is an important trait for her. But then almost like the fangirl trait can stay, and it can even stay as like her major character fault, because I think, me personally speaking, I think it's funny and charming that even when she's at her most like capable girl boss hell yeah moment, and then like Sonic appears for 2 seconds and then she's like, oh my god, and she completely loses herself, is like good. That's funny, that's charming, and if we're being honest, even a little relatable. Like, come on, haven't you ever been down atrocious for somebody? I think you have. So it's like, yeah, girl, I've been there. Like, sometimes everything's all cool, all good, and then you see like someone that you're super attracted to and you're just like, oh my god, I can't think about anything else now. It's funny, and I think that it's not hard to do both. I think it's actually really easy to do both, and it's lazy to just be like, yeah, her whole trait is that she likes Sonic.
Well, to bring that in real life, as far as like having those moments where you're like focused and like into something, and all of a sudden the person you're attracted to walks by, like I still have moments with that with my wife. Like either me too, with
my boyfriend.
Yeah, either seriously or even just like as a joke, like she'll be saying something to me, and then like, you know, like because I love her, I'll also be jokey, like, sorry, what was it? I was staring in your eyes.
Yeah, no, that's legit. No, I'll be sitting there and I'll be like in the zone doing something for work or for streaming or whatever, and then Bones will walk by and take his shirt off, and I'm just like, hello? Yeah. And then I completely don't remember what I was doing or why, and I'm like just doing grabby hands at him, and he's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm just like,
hungry. I'll be like, she'll walk by and I'll be like, oh, sorry, I was looking at your butt.
Yeah. Oh my god. On the flip side, every time I like walk through the bedroom and I'm like just on my way to get something, and he stops everything, he's in the middle of playing Tekken, he like tosses controller to one side, launches himself from his desk, I'm like, what? And then he just slaps my ass as hard as he possibly can. All the time. And then just sits right back down, and I'm just like, what was that for? And he's just like, you have a butt and I wanted to touch it.
I have done that. I can say that I have done that.
Man,
is that what we want Amy Rose to do?
Yes, to slap Sonic's ass, totally.
Sonic does not have an ass, let's be fair.
Funny though, she'll be like, oh, I love your lack of ass.
We got to be careful, because like if Amy's strong enough to wield that hammer, she's strong enough to break his legs with one slap.
Cool. Awesome.
Crushed his little spiky pelvis bone.
The messed up thing would be if she does that, and then Sonic is like, I suddenly like her a little more. He's like, wait, damn, she a freak.
Oh no, something is finally awakened within me.
I'm just thinking about the Futurama episode where like the skeletons have crushed pelvises.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, the snoo.
Death by snoo.
So what you're saying is we need a really bulky, massive version of Amy to destroy Sonic.
Almost like a cave girl persona even.
Now, hang on.
Chin. Stroke
Careful what
chin.
you talk about while I'm in the room.
Luke's about done with us. I do. Okay. To go back to your initial point, I completely agree that there is absolutely a way to balance it out. And, doing this episode, realized that, yeah, they kind of have, for the most part. It's just that when they don't find a balance, that is what sticks out in my mind and brings up all the memories of, like you said, like, oh, people only talking about that. But I do think the balance is there now. And I'm just kind of, like I said earlier, I'm just kind of at a loss where people talk about they want the old Amy back, and don't like how she is in Frontiers, or straight up will say, oh, I hate how she is in the IDW comics. And I'm like, man, I think we just fundamentally like different things about this character, because to me, the balance is there in IDW. She is very, still very adorable about her crush on Sonic and IDW, and is also very, capable, and that is not the only thing about her. And I just hope we get more of that. I hope more of that finds its way into the games as more, story-focused things come out next. And I like to see the retroactive with different writers on the Japan and American side, also develop a classic Amy personality based on it's so funny, retroactively based on our Amy now. How can we show a younger version of that? And yeah, I think the balance is there. Maybe it's in comics that you don't want to read, but I mean, I'm sorry, it's good. You should read it if you like Sonic, if you like Amy.
Well, you know what it comes down to is Amy is not Sally Acorn or Mina Mongoose, so some people are upset.
So true.
I get it, lost loves, and Mina Mongoose slay. Yeah. Look at we just got horny Jake, and now we're talking about Mina Mongoose.
You've still been pining for Grimer all these years.
Well,
Mina Mongoose was almost slayed.
My poor.
Sorry, what's the most significant thing that happens to her? Like we mentioned, is the time she got
I gotta
shot.
give you your props for that joke, Jeremy. You saw your shot and you took it.
Just like Knack the Weasel.
My poor girl.
I was gonna say, I think an important thing about balancing Amy is that no matter what you do, people just hate her because she's a girl and she's pink and she's feminine. Yeah, I could just leave it as she's a girl. And people are sort of predispositioned to hate her.
You're not wrong.
So you might as well just continue to give her more character traits that make her a little more relatable and a little more, how should I say, believable. And you don't have to erase her old traits to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't have to. I think we've said it already. You shouldn't have to, because she should be allowed to be a character like the other characters, like the boy characters, without completely erasing a part of her established personality. And man, I just gotta say, if the only reason you hate Amy is she's not Sally Acorn, I'm like, first of all, you're either my age or much younger, and I don't know which is sadder.
It's so easy to like them both. It's actually super easy, you guys.
You can like more than one woman.
Oh, now you're being controversial. I can't. You're telling me that women are people and we don't have to pit them against each other or constantly compare them, and we can understand that every single individual person is different?
Well, the problem is there is a male character that they're vying for the affections for, and that causes wars.
And that doesn't need to cause wars. That problem was solved.
Yeah. One ain't never coming back. I'm sorry.
True. I was gonna say
even before that problem was solved by giving Sally a girlfriend.
Oh yeah. Said that before is my favorite thing you can infer from Archie Sonic is furry soap opera romance was so bad it made Sally realize she doesn't like boys anymore.
Screw that, I'm shacking up with my computer. It's the only thing that brings me
it's maybe the most relatable thing about her.
We miss you, Sally. That Sally. Farewell to arms. But this episode isn't about Sally. Sally.
Sally.
Time.
Just kidding. I like her.
Just kidding.
This like final like balancing point that we're talking about now, like Luke and I were kind of talking about it before we started the show all together, and I've already talked about it earlier, so I'll just try to sum it up quickly. That like I think like the right balance is it kind of comes from the IDW part where Amy does realize that like she's tired, she's stressed, and she does not want to lead the resistance anymore. And I think that's the healthy girl boss mentality of like knowing when to lead and what capacity and when to like step down and let somebody else take over.
Know your limits.
And then also what we've talked about, you know, the inherent bravery to be able to like outright declare that you like someone, especially right to their face. And that's like the healthy fangirl Amy. And I think that's the balance. Like honestly, I think it even goes back to Sonic Adventure 1 of like she has the right head on her shoulder. She knows when to fight. She knows when to step aside or run away. And throughout, like it's amazing, honestly, like throughout this discussion, throughout the whole episode, I think honestly I have a better appreciation for Amy Rose than I did going into it, because it's all this discussion.
I win.
Yes,
I've won. Yes.
I'm joining the Mika side.
Yes.
But like honestly, like through all this discussion and this a lot of like little revelations that have come to light through all the talking is that, you know, really Amy has been very well balanced for a long time. It's just her devotion and sometimes obsession over Sonic, which has either helped or worsened the scales of balance as far as her character. And like when it's done right, which I would say a good, not all the time, of course, and not majority of the time, but a good portion of the time, I think it's done right, where it's a healthy desire of Sonic and a healthy like fangirling of him. And like the last thing I'll say is like, if anybody thinks that fangirl Amy is bad, just watch the show Comey Can't Communicate, and that one chick who is all...
Oh my god, I know exactly who you're talking about. That is a fangirl gone bad.
She's the worst character in any written thing, in my opinion. And the fact that like she continues in that show, it boggles my mind, because I've read it that like, of course in the anime she like kidnaps the guy and like threatens to kill him, but like in the manga apparently she like even goes as far as like almost straight up cutting him with a big knife. And like I guess they like kind of redeem her in later manga chapters and later on in the anime, but like that's just fangirling gone wrong. And like if you cannot compare Amy to that level of fangirling.
Yeah.
What was the name of the character again? I don't even want to acknowledge her. She's bad.
She's bad.
I mean, if you're going to go that far, you might as well give her a nice boat, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, well. You know what? Amy Rose, like lots of people consider Sonic to be their role model, and you know, that's fine if you want to go with that. I get it. He was like that for me as a kid. But I think Amy Rose is a role model of her own. You know, she had her problematic starts, and even if Mika appreciates her all the whole time, I get it. But I feel like she really, over the years, she's developed as a character and really rose to the occasion.
Hey.
Good for her.
And some people just need to change their perspective. For some people, you need to stop seeing it as like, oh my god, she's crazy. What's wrong with her? You need to change like, she's such a badass. Wow. You just need to see it from another perspective, I think. Because some people, I think, just get really set in their ways of just being like, oh, she's crazy.
And I appreciate that we have material now that really does make it a lot easier to have that change of perspective and see, you know, the core of the character and get that sense of how capable she is without having to sacrifice the parts of her that make Amy Amy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%. She's the best.
Amy Rose is good, actually.
She's the best. She's my favorite. She's literally my favorite.
And she's not getting in the way of Knuckles, so, you know, that's...
I was 12. I was 12. Listen, I, like Amy, have my faults. And I 100% got over it. It was not even that long-lived. It was like a year, and then I was like, Rouge is really cool.
But
whatever.
What a year it was.
But what a year it was. Where I would go online and, like, on forums or whatever, just be like, I hate Rouge, man.
Who does she think she is?
I have a distinct memory of I don't remember why, but my friend, like, did she send me the image or did she print out just the box art from Sonic Adventure 2 battle where they're like looking at each other and like just grabbing, I don't remember if it was in MS Paint or in real life with a marker, but literally scribbling out Rouge like a fucking petulant child. Just being like, ugh! But I was a kid, so like it's fine.
Every copy of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is personalized.
But deep down, Mika had hope. She was waiting for Knuckles to show up, and so every time someone would be like, knock, knock, she'd be like, it's Knuckles!
Oh my god. I have so many stories about my Knuckles obsession. It's like, that's another story for another day. We'd be here for another hour.
Join us again for the Knuckles episode featuring Prismaeya Coolstreamer and her confessions of being a child in love with an echidna.
I mean, I still love Knuckles. He's probably like my second or third favorite.
I'm ending this episode. That seems as good a note to end our discussion on as any. So thank you all so much for tuning in for what is probably going to be a recurring series of character deep dives. We're 2 in already. We might as well keep going down that rabbit hole.
I can imagine Mika wants to deep dive on some characters, but we'll get
Don't bring me back for Knuckles.
Special guest Mika.
It's just going to be Mika's embarrassment hour. It's be like, listen, here's all this stuff I randomly know about him because...
Well, now we definitely have to have you back.
Pull up some old childhood drawings.
Oh God, I probably have some with my like Sonic self-insert that I drew.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, you're definitely coming back for that episode.
Until that happens, you can find the show on Twitter and YouTube and various social medias at Sonic F Series, and you can find me personally at CyberLink 420.
And you can find me around the internet as GameBuddy, sometimes with a 123 on the end.
And I'm all across the internet to have bad opinions about female Sonic characters at FAULERRO on Faulerro, by the way. But that's how you spell that.
Love that jingle. And the explanation. You can find me on the socials as RockTheJake, and you can find me on Twitch as Mr. RockTheJake.
And you can find me, Mika Prismaeya Coolstreamer, on Twitch as Prismaeya, Prismaeya, and also on Twitter and anywhere else probably, but I wouldn't personally recommend it.
Follow her across the internet and ask her about her fixation on Knuckles the Echidna as a child. She will be happy to elaborate.
The 12-year-old in me will just jump out like, all right.
Especially during one of her streams.
You know, honestly, if you want to come into my streams and just start chatting me up about Knuckles, fuck yeah, dude, let's talk about Knuckles. He's cool.
I'll hold you to that.
I don't care if I'm not playing a Sonic game. Sure, whatever. It would be like the most normal conversation topic no matter what.
Special thanks as always to Amy Waters for the use of our theme song from the album Gotta Go Slow. You can check out more of her work on YouTube and Bandcamp, and you can find her on all the socials at Amy Waters Music. And of course, remember to subscribe, review, share, all that good stuff. Help us spread the podcast around so we can keep doing more of this.
Yes.
Definitely tell us what we did right and wrong about Amy, and we will read your comment. And that's it.
And Mika will tell you that you hate women.
It's true. Agree with me or you hate women?
We'll read your comment. We probably won't acknowledge it, but we'll read your comment. But next time, we're doing a quick look at one of the lesser-known Sonic games for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, a system that nobody has thought about for the last 20 years until just recently, Sonic Pocket Adventure, or as I like to think of it, Sonic Advance Zero.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a Sonic Advance before Sonic Advance. Basically, interesting little game. And I do mean little. It's a teeny tiny little thing. Interesting to pop that one out and give that an actual playthrough.
I'm excited to have people hear that one. But until then, I'm CyberLink.
I'm GameBuddy.
I'm Faulerro.
I'm RockTheJake.
And I'm Mika. Did I happen to mention this is strip poker?
Oh, this has been The Hill is Always Greener. We will see you on the other side.